Yeah.
And we're go. We are live. You can start leading the way.
Okay, thank you, sir,
Mhm.
for hosting this thing. Well, like you're kind of hosting it now, but
That's not a good idea. You go ahead.
all right, folks, welcome to Memento Mori discussion. This is a talk show that challenges preconceptions about what people generally believe is true or desirable, how such preconceptions are not necessarily the most conducive, and major issues include, but are not limited to, political leadership, that is, presidents, dictators, despots, militarism, and corporate enterprises, which also includes capitalism and privatization. The phrase memento mori means remember that you must die. It is a title and message to chiefly world leaders and anyone who believes they are infallible. Emphasis on the infallibility aspect. I think you could probably agree with me, right, Grits?
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. So with me today is Grits of Blasphemy. He is
Yeah.
a fellow combat veteran and a longtime friend. His interests are gaming, right? Gaming,
Mhm.
music,
Mhm.
like such as playing guitar.
Mhm.
Um, what else do you like? What are you into these days? Do you
Um.
like Shibari?
Yep. Getting into that. Just passed my first test yesterday, and that was pretty cool. Not sure how much of that I can
Wow.
talk about here,
So
but it's cool.
okay, so they have like well, that's an adult show. So I mean, like, not going too far into like, but wait, so they have like testing for that kind of
No, no,
thing?
I gave myself a test. Like I followed some like
Oh, I
online
see.
courses and then worked on the mannequin,
Self-evaluation.
and then I finally had the live test run, and it went rather
Wow.
swimmingly, to quote the people across the pond that piss me off with their
Swimmingly.
accents. Yes.
Right. Now I'm going to speak in a British accent from here on, just so we can no, okay. Let's not do that because
I haven't had a headache in
I
like
don't
five
want to
days.
piss
Please
you
don't.
off like right out the gate.
Yeah.
All right. So
Fucking my teeth start getting crooked, and I want fried fish and potatoes or something. It's just yeah, already bald. I'm halfway
so
there. Okay.
I thought of like there okay, so I have a pool of topics that I would like to touch upon on this first episode.
Yeah.
And so I would like to ask you, like, which would you like to discuss first or the most? All right, so I have just recruitment in the army, that's one.
Okay, let me break out my
Um
drugs.
um rejection of claims in the VA.
Oh,
All right, so, um long-term and drastic effects of post-traumatic stress disorder. Alright, so I was thinking about picking from one of those
is any
because
of
we're
this
gonna
supposed to be happy? Okay. No?
well, all right, so I felt like from the gate that there should be like a platform for um a dissenting opinion against like this preconception that like veterans have, that there's a kind of that we are honored and that like the government's looking out for us and this sort of thing.
Yeah, the
um
lies.
yeah, the lies. The propaganda.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was just thinking maybe we could start there.
Okay, sure.
But if you have some other do you have another like topic, and you know what, to sort of this is what I want to do, okay,
Hmm.
to give it a little bit of a levity. I was thinking about like relating it to um a game that we both like, okay, and
Okay.
that is Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That's cool.
Because and also maybe the Metal Gear franchise, because um and because like, all right, so on my end, Memento Mori is very serious and dour, but I don't want to just like hold everybody down to that sort of that parameter.
Hmm.
So we don't need to. We can just talk about these topics while also sort of fusing together other topics and making it work that way, because they deal with the same themes and um, you know. So what I was thinking was like how that like Final Fantasy VII is a really great way to think about it because um the game is just a giant allegory about how militarism and corporatism are horrible for like people in like the community.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe I could just recap just really quick about what Final Fantasy VII entails for the listeners because maybe they're not so familiar with
We
it.
don't want an audience that doesn't know what Final Fantasy VII is.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck those guys.
But we should just recap just the base, like just the basic
Fuck that. If they're not gonna
framework, just
Google
so.
FF7, they can fucking cancel out right now. Fuck you. Get out of here.
No, no, guys.
Go fucking
Okay.
cook something or do fucking CrossFit. Fuck all y'all.
Yeah. Well. All right. To me, it's
You
important
don't
that we
belong.
sort of
Okay.
break ground here that, um, because like even people that are like fans of the franchise probably don't even get it. Like they probably don't know what it really is. But it's a giant allegory for it's basically like Apocalypse Now for gaming. Like if you ever seen that film.
Yeah.
Um, but basically you you have like you start out in a dystopian city just like Blade Runner, and it's called Midgar, and you are introduced to a mercenary named Cloud, and he gallivants around with this like terrorist cell called Avalanche. They call them terrorists or whatever. I don't really, because their targets are non-living things. I wouldn't consider that terrorism. I mean, because yeah, some of the soldiers like it's sort of like like how do you say retconned that they put like living soldiers in, the people that you deal with in the station. I'm going on a tangent, but the people you deal with in the station, it's not determined whether you kill them or you knock them out or whatever. But then later on, there are nothing
Their
in the
bodies flicker and
reactor is
disappear,
living.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
they just I don't man, but it's heavily
I
implied to
wouldn't think
me that
someone was alive if that happened in real life. I wouldn't know what happened.
yeah, okay, we can debate that, but what I'm trying to say is that once you're in the reactor and
Yeah.
you set a bomb in there, like the only thing you've been dealing with have been machines from there, or like some kind of weird creature,
Yeah.
right? So that I think that was how it was meant to be originally, but they changed it a little bit, I guess, to in the remake so that it could have more of a human drama, quote unquote,
Hmm.
because in Japan they call drama human drama, which I find funny because how drama is a human experience.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's like redundant, especially in literature. But anyway, so to the point. All right, Cloud is a mercenary because he used to belong to the elite aspect of the Shinra Corporation called Soldier, and this organization is a highly militarized and private sort of mercenary group that goes around just their initial mission was to deal with the war in Wutai. Is that right? Like Wutai is a foreign nation that's kind of like like a like a sorry, an analog or a kind of depiction of East Asia, and I think it's supposed to like it's funny because this game is made in Japan, but like Wutai sort of blends Japanese and Chinese elements and maybe even Korean.
Yeah.
I mean, one could argue, well, in intellectual circles, we call it the Sinosphere. So, but I mean, like, so I know for a fact that the writers know what I'm talking about because they like, I looked into it.
Oh
But
yeah. They're listening.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I just mean, but
I'm not
anyway,
trying
so
to shit on. Okay.
they deal with Wu Tai, and then and maybe Nick, maybe this is where you can start to like I don't know contribute to this
Hmm.
recap because like then we're the story of Zack comes into play, right?
Oh
Which is like
yeah.
a prequel,
My
and
boy.
yeah, like what, like so how does Zack get involved? Was Wu Tai Wu Tai? I don't remember
Crisis
Crisis
Core.
Core so much. Yeah, not the early parts of Crisis Core. I remember the later parts. But I
Wow.
don't think
Oh, you're gonna
I
call
don't think
me out.
Zach was like
I don't. I don't know if he
I
ever
don't think
got the
he
Wu
was
Tai. If I,
yeah, I don't think he was involved. I think he was involved in some other shady business, right?
yeah,
Like
he
with
was.
the soldier
He
and
was usually like. I mean, he was up Sephiroth's ass, and then when he got Soldier First Class, he was running around after Angeal died, trying to shut up that Loveless motherfucker. God,
right,
that
Genesis,
fucking
played
Shakespearean.
by Gokto.
Oh shit, Gokt actually played him. Okay, well,
Gokt, yeah, yeah.
I'm
I
just
mean, like
gonna.
that's kind of like the joke that uh Gokt is Genesis, basically. Like it's like literally him inserted into the game.
Well, I was yeah the English dub dude. No, I
Yeah.
couldn't stand hearing him like just fail at poetry for like 18 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, they call it like faux Shakespeare or whatever. But
Yeah.
like Lovelace was always part of Final Fantasy VII. Like there was always part, like it was always meant to be in the game.
Yeah.
So that's not it's not retcon or anything like that. The fact that they have a soldier that's obsessed with it is fine because like soldiers are obsessive. They're complete. They each of them are um, you know eccentric. They have
Mhm.
their own idiosyncrasies. Like they're a unique person, basically.
Yeah.
Like because they're all like, it's their ego basically. Their ego is like augmented and then they give them a reason to have an ego by making them this elite soldier. So there are so many directions we can go with this, but I want to eventually lead up to the story of Zack in Cloud. Basically, is what I want to get to.
Okay.
Um, and but while you play as Zack, you in Crisis Core, you see like what Shinra's up to, like what their bottom line is, which is what like first of all, Shinra is an energy company. Like that's their whole purpose. So like their whole that's how they make profits and how they like rule the world basically. It's through
Yeah.
energy. Mako is the energy and in the game, Mako is literally the Earth's life force called life stream. So like the planet, which is not Earth, it's called Gaia actually in the game. But the planet's life force is life stream, and Mako is made through enriching that life force. So it's also another analog for like oil
Yeah. Let's
and
say
natural gases and stuff like that.
barrels of oil.
Yeah.
Knock knock.
And
Who's there? Gas prices. Who do we blame? Anyone that's not Republican. Anyway.
well, I mean, yeah, actually that's a good thing to talk about real quick. So I can just thwart that whole idea. Um, gas prices, like yeah, at the macroeconomic level, the president might have some effect, but it's only consequential. All the like anything to do with like gas prices and oil, that is a macroeconomic scheme that like deals with OPEC and like I guess I suppose the United States, if they wanted to operate independently without doing oil trade, they could because we have like reserves and whatnot, but
Mhm.
reserves are meant for like doomsday scenarios.
Yeah.
In the event that like there's a global collapse or something like that. But um yeah, so the idea that like any sitting president is the reason that oil prices have changed is just point blank silly. Right? Like
Uh-huh.
we're actually at a cold war with Russia right now, and that's the reason oil prices are what they are, and they were already increasing anyway. But anyway, so I want to go back to Zach and Cloud. Or
Yeah.
do you have anything to say about that? Or,
No, I just
um,
see hillbillies putting Biden stickers saying I did that on all the fucking
oh, okay,
gas
the
pumps.
hillbillies.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
The people that
Yeah, they're
wear
our
summer
national
clothes in
treasure.
Florida. They're just
But
nice rims, no teeth. That's salt light.
so Well, I wanted to touch on like the kind of sadder part of the story where Zack and Cloud wind up getting mixed up in the Niflheim incident. Nibelheim in Final Fantasy VII. Which is like what it's called? Is it called the Nibelheim incident or what? What is it? Something like that. So like Shinra covers it all up, but basically what they were doing was conducting experiments to reproduce something like Sephiroth. Right? Sephiroth is this elite soldier who he's so powerful he's like a god. So of course they want more of that. Anyone that's power hungry or whatever. But the scientist named Hojo,
Sick.
who I think was a play off of like Hideki Tojo, who was like the leader of Japan during World War II, and also what's his name? Adolf Eichmann was
Fucking red flag there.
not
Just
sorry.
red flag much? Just sorry.
Oh yeah. Right. The guy is completely insane, an insane scientist who experiments on living people and all sorts of things
Yeah.
and creates abominations. And so the man captures Cloud and Zack. Do you remember the reason for their capture? Or was it just like he just wanted to take them for
Man,
I know,
I don't know.
I think I remember. So the incident in the reactor where Sephiroth goes postal and steals Genova, and then he like wipes out the village. That all happened, and then Shinra came in, cleaned it all up, and then they took Zack and Cloud's bodies to the experiment room in the mansion. All right, is that how it went down?
Buddy,
Pretty sure that.
I don't remember. I would have brushed up on this because I really
Okay,
love
okay,
Crisis Core, and I forgot
yeah.
like half the story. I just remember
But you
Zack
could
was
also.
OG. Cloud's like, man, you're cool. And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. And then he died saving him. And he's like, oh, you try to be
Yeah.
cool now. And Cloud's like, fuck, okay. And he drags the sword for like 3 years. Finally can hold it. And then, yeah,
Mm,
the whole time he's just like, fuck, Zack, you were cool. That's why he's an
yeah,
asshole.
yeah.
Because he's not as cool as Zack. That's just how it
Zack is
goes.
cool though. Like that, but that
No,
actually, yeah, that
see,
does kind of bring it to another direction that I want
Zack
to
was
go.
always
Sorry.
cool. Cloud got cool through effort. Cloud is the Parthurmax of Final Fantasy
Yes, yes,
VII.
yes.
Through
I
great
agree.
effort.
I agree with that. I think that Zack was always meant to be cool, actually.
Yeah.
So the whole point is that um, Zack was supposed like in the original 7, you only hear of Zack through like almost like legend
And
of
a hidden flashback you can unlock where he's in the back of a truck.
yeah. Yeah, well yeah, like you hear about him through Aerith in the beginning. That's the first time you hear of him. And then it's really funny because like you hear about him in these little snippets, but eventually Cloud remembers him.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, "Oh, this is somebody that he was like my friend," you know? And
He's also got 8 seconds of screen time in Advent Children.
yes.
So that's important to note.
And that was and you know what? I was going through a rough moment in my life where that actually pissed me off.
I know. I know.
Because yeah, for me Aerith was like somebody that who I thought I was in love with. I guess you would say in love with in the sort of romantic sense.
Yeah.
And like Zack reminded me of somebody else that was also he is also a veteran, but of different branch of the military.
Oh, I
And
gotcha.
yeah. So for me, it was just like, that reminds me of something.
Rhymes with vitality.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. Like, I'm actually glad that things went the way they went with my relationship and this other person, and
There's when I was playing
because it turns out women can go crazy.
Oh, go crazy. You're talking like that's something that can happen that's not already there, but yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The world's gonna hear this.
Nah, it's okay. I mean, as long as it's vague enough. But folks, listeners, uh, maybe if you're even I think women or non-binary people would can understand that certain people can just be crazy. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
they can grow into being crazy.
Doesn't matter what gender you are or aren't. You can be a crazy bitch. That's
Yeah,
gender neutral.
but it's like what
Born with the free
but it's like what Donald Glover said. It's like you know the only reason you're always hearing about crazy women and not crazy men is because crazy men wind up being the folks that are on the news.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they wind up going to prison. Crazy women just like somehow evade all that stuff where they don't get scrutinized and maybe they're not caught.
I would argue sometimes maybe they're better at just living crazy.
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
like dudes will just be like, yeah, I can take this, I can take this, I can't take this, and they fucking explode.
yeah. And then and there is a kind of gender element to that
Yeah,
because like men, yeah, in the gender perspective, um yeah, there's that whole idea that men are more susceptible to just like lashing out, and it really is like taking it out on other people, or anyway. But that's a whole other thing. But I mean, that more relates to Sephiroth, because
yeah.
Sephiroth had this kind of messiah complex that was given to him by Shinra, by the way. Like everyone that's surrounding him was like feeding him all this stuff, like, oh, you're so great, you're the hero of our country, you're blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what happens to soldiers,
Did you
right? Like,
ever? Sorry to cut in here, but like my first experience of Sephiroth being a god was when
mhm.
I saw him take no goddamn damage fighting a dragon in Final Fantasy
Yeah,
VII.
yeah.
I even tried to attack him as Cloud and didn't do shit. So he's
Yeah, and I believe those monsters, is it a like was it a behemoth or
it was a red dragon,
red dragon? Okay. Yeah, I wasn't
I
sure. Like I
think.
remembered it as a kind of dragon type of
It wasn't.
monster.
No, it wasn't a fucking Charizard where it looks like a dragon, but it's not. It was fucking. It was a dragon.
Okay. Okay.
And I could go on a tangent
Yeah,
about how
yeah.
they fuck Charizard.
Legitimate dragon, yeah. No, and so yeah, like yeah, that's how we are introduced to him, is like he's this elite, you know, dude. Like he has it all. He has the big sword, he's got all the magic powers. Um Dude can fly. I mean, like in the original 7 you can't really tell, but um dude can do all kinds of superhuman godly feats. And yeah. So and that like I said, that's also that goes along, like it's an allegory for how soldiers are treated, right? Like we remember when we would go through the airport and then people would just like clap. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah.
support our troops or whatever the hell.
I was looking for a
Like,
celebrity.
thank you for your service. And it's like, sorry.
No, no. I would look for a celebrity. Like, who the fuck are you clapping at? Just,
Yeah. It was like this fanfare of like nationalism where they're like, support our troops and that sort of stuff,
just
and thank you for your service. And, this sort of, and you know what, for me it was always a red flag that any any phrase that could just be said like any offhand thing, like thank you for your service, that's such a cookie cutter phrase to say.
yeah.
For me it's pretty much like saying nothing, you know. It's like,
It's for me.
hey
It was
man.
like I'm announcing I'm uncomfortable in a respectable manner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
I didn't like
yeah,
hearing it that
even
much.
though I was sitting at a bar and then someone would be like, "Thank you for your service. I buy you a drink." I'd be like, "Sure. Do you have anything else to say? Do you want to tell me why you're thanking me for my service? Like, what is the?"
Hmm.
Because for me, it was like nationalism and all that. Well, we'll get into it, but um, from an early age, I never really understood this the group the herd mentality of nationalism that they call patriotism, in America, and
It's
I don't know. For me, that just didn't really compute because of my childhood and my upbringing. That stuff is very important. So,
yeah, there
anyway,
needs to be like a competence reevaluation every couple years when you just be like, America's great. It'd be like, why are you just piggybacking off the efforts of like your grandfathers? Like, what have you done?
yeah,
What have are you great? Should you reproduce? Are you special? Are you
yeah,
smart?
exactly. Because
Can you work hard? Like what makes you great, motherfucker?
I mean, yeah, because like the good old generation or whatever you want to call them, the great generation from World War II period.
hmm
I'm not sure that they would how they would hold this current generation in esteem. Not that I would evaluate our standing on their evaluation. It's just
Yeah.
um, if they want to if they want to use that as a sort of basis for why America is great.
First thing they would probably
I'm not.
say is stop eating. Just fucking stop eating.
Yeah, get some exercise. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like,
Go for a
um,
fucking walk and stop putting things in your mouth. Just
yeah, yes, yes. Eat healthy,
oh.
like, cause, like, yeah, I know that the great generation they had to eat shit food, uh,
I mean, you look
like
at all the
for extended
pictures,
periods of time.
just like
Yeah,
people just walked and worked. And I know lots of
and
advancements
and
have
if
kind of led to
given a
sedentary
choice, they would
changes.
eat healthy
Yeah.
and have a be in. I mean, like, I remember this guy Gino. He's Pacific War vet, so he's World War II Japan vet, and he said and he still kept up a regimen of eating healthy and exercising.
Yeah.
Um, and this guy was like in his 80s and he was doing this stuff. Um, and my mother tried to take care of him every now and then because he's old, so he couldn't really clean well. But that's okay. I mean, like, he was still very alert and very up and at him, at his age.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, and he
You
could
gotta
tell me stories about his time in Japan. And sorry, go ahead.
oh, you just gotta keep moving and doing shit.
Yeah, yeah, just keeping active and also not giving into stuff like stress response and stuff like that, which is
Yeah.
something we're not being taught these days.
No.
Um, but I mean, like, but at the same time, their generation, they were taught to repress all of their emotions,
I
like in
handle
the
trauma
stoic
like a
sense.
4-year-old with an empty bottle. And then you're like, why is
Yeah.
the 4-year-old drinking the bottle? I'm like, exactly. I shouldn't be. I just don't want it. That's the first problem. But
Yeah. But yeah, nowadays we are a little bit more in tuned, not for society's efforts, for the efforts of, like, you know neuroscientists and psychologists, people who put a lot of rigor into what they do. It's not like this whole of society. It's not the zeitgeist of our society that has led to you know in introspection and taking care of our psychology. In fact, one thing that I really loathe is popular psychology, like people who people who don't really, maybe they haven't even had like a course in psychology and they're like using pop psych terms and stuff
yeah,
and trying to, like,
pretty much
sort of
how I got.
pathologize other people.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
that's like kind of like how I got my degree. Just the 15-minute YouTube videos instead of reading the book. My first degree.
Yeah.
I read
What,
like
your
I,
associates or?
my first bachelor's.
Oh, bachelor's. Okay,
I
got
remember none of. But
it. Yeah,
that's
I,
rough.
I I would just say that. Anyway, that's kind of a tangent though. But psychology it does come into play with Final Fantasy VII because you deal with a lot of psychology in that game and franchise. Um, and yeah, the militarism as well. But anyway, let me just get into
It's
the.
all in Tifa's shirt. All the problems.
Yeah, Tifa's like a woman character in the franchise, and yeah, she is well endowed. Let's put it that way. And yeah, every teen boy our age probably had like
Oh boy.
they had like some kind of
Sexual awakening, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, me not so much for me. Like I was more into Aerith,
Yeah, you went
to be
straight for
brutally honest.
you went straight simping for the one that was gonna die before you even knew it.
Yeah.
It's like tragedy is just like woven into your soul. You're like, wait, I'm attracted to that one. Why? Oh, they died.
Yeah, I just like the deeper connections, you know, like the fact that she's a goddess in the game, like you know what I mean, like she's literally like
What the fuck is
mm,
that materia good for? The shit that fell out of her.
the holy material. Well, I mean that's the ending, right? Remember the whole thing with the
Oh, that little fucking. Oh, gotcha. That was the stuff that helped the live stream. Some of the live stream to
yeah,
fight Meteor.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm rusty, man. I would have prepped a little bit more if we were jumping into this game.
Okay, no worries.
What's
But
up?
yeah, so Zach, this is where I want to get a little bit more serious, a little bit. I mean, like not so, you know, or but I just want to say that my commentary about the game and why I was so um hell bent on canonicity, right? The
Mhm.
3 C's is what I call it, like which is continuity, consistency, and canonicity.
You're like cock cobbling cock.
Like crap, chunks, and
Yeah,
cock. So
yeah.
I don't know what'd you say? What?
It was cock cobbling and cock.
Oh man, sorry.
uh,
Yeah. So yeah, consistency, continuity, and canonicity, right? Like I already knew that from the get go that Final Fantasy VII wasn't always the best primer on canonicity, but in the case of like the compilation and all that stuff, it started to matter for me because like you would have straight up arch villains turning into maybe they're cool, so let's make them heroes in this, you know, in this installment of the compilation. Let's make the Turks, who are assassins who like murdered a whole sector of the whole city, and make them like just these cool, you know, anti-heroes. Like, no, Nomura, I'm gonna slap you in the face, okay? I mean, not really,
oh,
just
you're in that
um,
country. You better be fucking careful.
proverbially.
I mean,
Yeah, if I could meet him, I would straight up just be like, dude, I don't respect you. You like everything you touch is like ruined. From like you don't understand anything. You don't know how to tell the good story. You had but anyway, I'm gonna not go
fuck,
there.
bro. Okay.
Dude, yeah, he sucks. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Certain people like so the thing that Nomura is good for is aesthetics.
Yeah.
That's only if it doesn't devolve into some kind of childish chibi version of what he had in mind, you know. But that's what we're seeing a lot now. I think like he went straight up full like I don't know. I don't want to say anything that's not politically correct. So I just want to say he
Leave
went
that to
full
me.
something. Yeah, in
We all have
Tropic
our
Thunder.
we all have
Okay,
our purpose.
remember?
Yes.
Yeah, remember just Robert Downey Jr.'s character in Tropic Thunder,
Oh,
and you'll know what I'm talking about.
god damn, I love that
Okay.
movie. All right. That's
Yeah.
that's
So,
that movie cannot be done in today's world. And
but it happened, and
yeah,
it's there, and it's a national treasure.
fuck yeah, it
It's
is.
a
That's what Nick Cage is stealing in
modern
the fucking
classic.
next movie he does. Like fuck that Declaration of Independence, I'm stealing this
But I mean, like people like Kendrick Lamar and like Jamie Foxx coming out saying that stuff is a okay. You know, like we're done with like the oversensitivity of a lot of these things.
movie.
Like so, I'm pretty sure something like Tropic Thunder 2 might happen again. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, like, if there was ever a sequel, you might not need you know, RDW. Robert Downey Jr.'s you know, character. I don't know. Anyway, back off that tangent, off the tangent of the tangent. I wanted to go back to Zach. All right, so eventually, Zach, you're shown as a hero. is presented to you as a semi-legendary figure. You find out later that he was Cloud's friend and that he died tragically. Okay, and that is something that um, that I want to just illustrate for everyone. That was like a very crucial part of the story for Cloud, right? And it's supposed to be for the audience, but because of the way that the compilation sort of had its quirky delivery and all that, I so personally for me, Grits, I think that Crisis Core should have been something completely different than what it came to, how it turned out. Um,
Yeah, as long as just Zach's in it being his usual better self, I don't care what it.
yeah, so in my image, he should have been way cooler. Actually, he should have been like this, like sort of what do you call like? I always forget what you call that, like the silent brooding type or whatever. Sort of like he's supposed to be like a stoic person,
Yeah.
and then like he like because that's what he was in the original. In the original, his dialogue with Cloud and
Mhm.
like yeah, he did have like he had a little bit of a quirk here and there, but it wasn't what didn't define his whole character, right? And so Crisis Core should have been like showing Zach as like this real elite soldier first class person who was fighting, side by side with Sephiroth, and then befriended Cloud, who was somebody who like, was basically just below him in every way, but he like was chummy with him and befriended him.
It's like an SF guy just adopting the bitch private
Yeah,
for real.
exactly. Like
Like the
yeah,
fucking
because he's
driver of
like
the MRAP. He's like,
somebody to literally look up to
yeah,
in every way,
uh-huh.
in every aspect. Like, and then being like, I wish I was that guy. I wish I was him. Because that's what Cloud wanted. He wanted to be this person. Like, that was like in every fiber of his being, he wanted to impress Tifa. He wanted to show everyone that he was worth something because he was bullied as a child. Um, and all this stuff is really matters to me because this reminds me of my own childhood.
Hmm.
And yeah, so he has like this sort of this these sort of I don't want to say the best I can think of is delusions of grandeur, but it's not really delusion. He just has like these flights of fancy, I guess you want to say, where he wanted to become something elite and like this guy, and then come to find out later that they become like war buddies, and really they do. But then it winds up that through an intensely psychologically destructive period of their life, Zach dies, right? And so for me, Zach is supposed to be dead. And in the remake,
Yeah.
and then the new sort of like I guess you would say trilogy for the remake of Final Fantasy VII, we're not sure if he's dead or whatever. We're thinking about they're playing with like alternate timelines or whatever, but for me it was just very important that things happened the way they did because it was like a that's how the allegory works.
Mm.
It's an allegory and it's internally consistent and it works to illustrate the reality of this sort of life. So now getting a little bit more serious about my experience. mm, like when I went to Iraq, like a few people that I knew died like that. And so so I can draw parallels to that story
Hmm.
and then sort of like show to other people how it relates to them and why like being in the military and having these experiences isn't like there's nothing to glorify about it. There's nothing positive about it.
No.
uh yeah, wouldn't you say?
Uh,
So like
free gyms and Cliff Bars. but I only got the free Cliff Bars when I was in Iraq.
Cliff bar. Yeah, remember the Cliff Bars? Remember Rippets?
Rippets, which almost killed like 3 people. Guys, don't drink
Yeah, dude.
Rippets. If this gets like a half of a fucking viewer, don't fucking drink a Rippet. It'll
Yeah.
just give you prostatitis. You'll fucking feel like shit. You won't be able to pee. You'll have to get a rod down your Peter, and you'll
But
be
it's like you
quite-
learn,
Yeah.
yeah, you learn in the army real quick that um corporations get like, you know what I mean? Like you get like the cheapest bitters.
Hmm.
They sell us all this junk that like remember like when we like what in my unit when we landed in Iraq and we wanted like something extra to eat. What we had was like we had like crates of honey buns, dude.
Oh,
Did you have the same thing?
oh, that's awesome. Well, no, I
No,
was in.
it was okay.
I mean,
Sorry.
not good for you. No, no, we had. I got lucky like the first like 7 or 8 months because I was in Husania, which was a patrol base that was shared with the Iraqi army.
Hmm.
So our DFAC was like contractor fed, literally, and it was just a bunch of
Yeah,
really fattening food.
yeah. So yeah, our fob, which is the main post. So I was infantry in route clearance and doing patrols, and we were the combat main effort when I was there. So we we lived off of the fob. You know, we would go into command operation bases
Hmm.
and yeah, and sometimes even just smaller outposts. And yeah, so like my experience might be a little bit different from like fob life. No, like that was like every few like it was like 2 weeks at the longest for refit.
Hmm.
Um, which that so guys, I'm listeners. That means like I my unit we were basically like we were put into the middle of what we would consider the combat zone, and then like we would live there, and then we would only ever go back to the main base when we had to like get more supplies, more food, something like that, and then and do laundry. Do laundry. And a big deal was getting showers, like like a full blown shower. Yeah, so um yeah, so okay, so I made a friend in Iraq who I'll just call him H because I don't want to say, well, no, that wouldn't work. There are two guys named H. Okay, so that died in Iraq.
H1 and
That who
2.
are uh
That kind of demeaning
I
for
know. I'll just call him Han.
Han and
Okay.
Solo.
Yeah, like Han Solo. We'll call him Han. All right.
Okay.
So there's Han. Okay, so Han was somebody that I met doing guard duty. Okay, so we're guarding like just a suspect, right?
Hmm.
So we always captured detainees and put them in into this like area for holding cell, and that's how I met him, was guarding this detainee who was a suspect for some. Excuse me, we're suspected him for holding, making IEDs and stuff like that. Um, but this guy basically, like, I don't want to get into much details, but he died tragically. And what I mean is that it involved self-affliction, right?
Hmm.
And but in order to cover it up, and also I I don't know if it's 50-50, like 50% cover up, 50% trying to get his family
The SGLI.
his his SGLI benefits, which means his life insurance that is like hundreds of thousands of dollars that they can give to his family because he died. and if it's self inflicted, then you don't get it, which is messed up. Like, because to me, like, we could probably speak on this a little bit, but to me that it's also considered like part of war.
Yep.
Like, it's a war casualty if you have
Uh-huh.
somebody who died from as a result of their own actions,
Yeah.
because of the deeply troubling environment that we were in, and the government put us there, so it's their responsibility. They put us there. That's the whole thing. It's like their concerted effort to make us go there, right?
I just
So
want to. I got a little bit of anger to get out there too, because it's a bunch of like 18
yeah,
and 19-year-olds, right? You're a fucking kid still,
yeah,
and you got these
yeah.
fucking meth
Very high,
dudes that are
deeply.
just like, "Hey man, you can do this. It'll be awesome." Blah blah. They got no experience. They're just like, "Sign this contract." Okay. And then you get in,
Yeah,
and you're like, "Guess what, motherfucker? You're a sub in BDSM hell called the Army for 8 years." It's like, I
yeah,
want to shoot guns at Call of Duty. And they're like, "You're about to get fucked in the desert." It's like, but
yeah. It's like deep, highly impressionable people,
yeah,
psychologically. That's objectively speaking, youths are deeply impressionable, and then especially when it has to do with something like glory, like the glory of combat or something like that, something sorry, ridiculous like that. And then um there was something else I wanted to say about it. That yeah, the government made efforts, and also we had something at the time. Um, so during the Iraq War, like the second one, Operation Iraqi Freedom,
hmm
we had something called stop loss and
yeah,
IR, which is what was it again?
inactive
Is
reserve.
it yeah, inactive reserve. So like people who were suffering from deep trauma, like I had a buddy, we'll just call him G. He got stop lost. He already served 2 deployments, and while he was actually on his way out, he was already on his way to like submitting, like he submitted like his gear and some uniforms, and then they stop lost him. And stop loss means that since you have more time on your contract, so you in the army, it's like you have active duty,
Yeah.
which means like you by contract you are expected to be there at all times, and if you're not, then you're AWOL, right? And then there is inactive reserve, which is the remainder of your contract, where you're not meant to be on active duty. You can go home basically, and you won't be counted as AWOL or anything like that. But at that time, Mr. the Honorable Rumsfeld had signed into policy stop loss, which is
Fuck that guy.
yeah. Anyway, so that is he's like the Palmer of, you remember Palmer from Final Fantasy VII? He reminded me of Palmer from Final Fantasy VII, dude, to the T.
The dude that looks like a walnut in a red suit.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
because he's like got the round face and everything. And call him
Yeah.
like Honorable Rumsfeld. Like I could picture him in a 3-piece suit and everything, like just being this
Fucking eating
like
peanut butter with this big ass
yeah,
spoon.
it's like, do you have any lard? Give me lard, whatever the hell he was
Yeah.
saying.
Oh.
um, yeah. So this kind of thing where like I remember when like I got back from Iraq, like I just got back. It was like the first week of my return, and I was handing in gear and doing some other stuff. I don't remember exactly what they called that. I don't remember the term of that stage. There was like a stage of our return from Iraq, and actually, I made an effort to forget a lot of this stuff
Yeah.
because it was deeply depressing to me. But
Mhm.
now it's been a few years, and it's been a while actually.
Yeah.
So um, so yeah, now I'm distant enough from it where I don't have to like I have a lot of healthy practices where I can process this stuff better. But anyway, I just remember this woman, like I was handing in something, and then this woman was like, yeah, like what I don't remember. So I knew that I only had like 8 months left of my active duty, something like that.
Mhm.
and then no, it was a little less. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble remembering the exact details. But basically, she was just like, "So we're gonna deploy next year in March or something like that." And then I like my whole body, just the shudders, and like I felt sick to my stomach, and I was just like, "I'm sorry, what?"
Hmm.
And then she was just like, "Yeah, we're gonna deploy again," and etc. And I was just like,
You guys have
I don't
less
know
than a
what.
year of recovery time?
Yeah, it was like less than a year or something. Like was what how it seemed like how she put it to
Because
me.
pre-deployment ops start like 5 months before you deploy, so that's awful. Like you get like
Yeah.
that's like you get your 1 to 4 months of fucking recovery time. Then you start
Hmm.
you knock out all your annual dumbass training, and then you're right back in deployment ops again.
Yeah.
That sucks, man. You got your Fort Irwin trip, you're fucking taking your gear on the trains, taking them off the trains, inventorying everything. Someone loses a rifle, you spend 2 weeks locked down when you want to go home. And then, yeah, it's awful. Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, and
Fuck that
in
stupid
those
ass.
situations, those situations, you really hate those people too. Like
Yeah,
those people who cause the lockdown and stuff. It's like, yeah,
yeah,
you wanna soap and sock them when
yeah,
they're sleeping.
yeah. I mean, and I don't. Yeah, people make mistakes, but oh, there is this. All right, a little off topic. This motherfucker.
Hmm.
There's this platoon, right? It
Hmm.
was called like when I was deployed. There was the platoons were colors like red, white, blue, and green.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there was one platoon that
gold
was
or whatever.
obviously like it was like they're racist. That platoon's all white people. There's like those poor two black dudes in it. They're just like
Hmm.
it was awful. But this fucking one dude. Oh fuck! I want to say his name and call him out because if he ever gets fucking if this ever gets famous, he's gonna get fucked. It's gonna be funny. So we're just gonna call him Sergeant Critter because if this ever picks up, it's gonna be funny. Anyways,
Sergeant Critter. Okay, I love
yeah,
it.
because people will
Hmm.
trace this back and they'll just feel
Hmm.
like, here's that thing. Who was that when Nick was deployed, huh? And I was going on some missions with these guys, and I was just like, I didn't know this was like an entirely racist platoon. So like,
Hmm.
there's like a guy named we're just gonna call him, Corporal Notmore, and like
Okay.
Corporal Notmore and Sergeant Critter.
Okay. I like this.
I am literally
I'm writing this
I
down.
am one letter off from their real names.
Okay.
um, or maybe two, I don't know. And I'm sitting there on like a night mission, and they're just like they just get out of nowhere, like like when you're talking to like grandparents, and you get that
Hmm.
like they seem normal until they bring up Jesus or the racism from their time, like it's still a thing, like it's still
Yeah.
accepted, and you just get this like smack. You're like, Jesus Christ, Grandma, calm the fuck down. Jesus loves black people too, you dumb bitch. It's like
Yeah.
fucking,
Yeah.
where do you
How
think
can
you
you?
got your recipe from? It was your slaves, you dumb whore. Your family didn't think of this on their own, you fucking cracker. Anyway,
Wow.
so yeah, I was sitting there and they just started going on this tangent, and I was just like amazed because like a lot of my torment came from the fact that I was a dumb gullible son of a bitch and I thought people were good. And I was just like,
Hmm.
okay, we're here to like help people. And so I was a medic. I was naive. I had a hero complex. All that put together is
Hmm.
a bad combination to sit with a bunch of people that have done fucking deployed 3 times and have no soul and gave up their humanity. Basically, basically, with exception to you, most because
Hmm.
we came in during the surge, so it
Yeah.
was people. It was poor,
Oh, I was
dumb.
on the forefront of the surge. Yeah.
Yeah, it was poor, dumb, immoral people that wanted a way to get money. Like there was literally a dude, I'll get back on topic, but there was a dude in my
Yeah.
basic that he was shadowing the drill sergeants. He was an E6, and he went
Mm.
on a tangent where the drill sergeants had to shut him up before he got in trouble because he was like, "It's great, you get to kill people for free. It's wonderful. You don't have to face jail time. You can just murder anybody you want." I'm like, "Fuck, man." I was like, that was the
Yeah.
first time where I was like, maybe I made a mistake. I hope medics are
Hmm.
nicer. But anyway, so I was in this truck on the mission, right, in Red Platoon, where in parentheses
Yep.
KKK platoon, and we're sitting there, and then they just start talking, and then they just start dropping all these racist slurs, and I'm like, fuck. And they didn't stop. They didn't stop with black people. They just went to everything. Like they hopped on the Hitler bandwagon. They fucking went over to little Mussolini. They just fucking just kept going and going. They even went Egyptian.
Wait, so
They went straight Pharaoh sometimes too. To like just like
so
yeah, let's just
you're
slave
saying
everybody.
that they were pro Hitler,
Oh, a little bit. They were
or do you mean that
no
they
no no
were
not
anti-Semitic?
no, they were just racist. They were just racist, and they would slur. They didn't have enough knowledge or memory or like to really. Actually, they spent so much energy just being racist towards black people that
Hmm.
they just it was awful. And then
Yeah,
like the next like couple days after that, one of the NCOs was just like shitting on his soldier. He was just like,
that's actually deeply upsetting to me because
yeah,
um my platoon, we were actually red platoon
hmm,
in my unit.
okay,
Um but no, like my platoon sergeant and it was black. I had a
hmm,
few African Americans in my platoon, and I would never ever, like, after experiencing the theater with them and
yeah,
stuff, I would never betray them. I would never ever do anything to undermine them or make them like diminish their honor and their integrity.
yeah,
Nothing like um because before the army, I was also like, mm, I don't know how much I want to confess here, but
yeah, don't,
basically, to the outside observer, I would appear as like a kind of proto alt right type person, right? Where, um, but internally, how I really was totally different. All right, my outward appearance and my outward demeanor was just me being edgy and trying to, like,
hmm,
push people out of my my sphere so that they didn't hurt me, if that makes sense.
yeah.
so
Anywho,
so there's a lot of
let me get back. I was just gonna say like
oh yeah,
basically
okay, sorry, I just
basically
wanted to, yeah, I just
the
wanted to say
sweet
hands
moment.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the sweet moment was like this guy like he came in with his soldier to the aid station, and we were like
Uh-huh.
we were kind of actually kind of buddies until I went on that mission with that platoon, and then I was just like nah, I'm gonna try to avoid that as much as possible, and then they came in with his soldier and he was like yelling at him because he was like sick and he had a fever and he misplaced his
Yeah.
weapon because he was delirious and dehydrated. And I was like, yo, man, like, why don't you chill a little bit? You found it in like 30 seconds and he's fucked up. Like, he
Mm-hmm.
literally, like, like from being a medic, I know how people get panic and PTSD because when you're so tired like that, you have to force yourself into a panic and release endorphin. You got to overwhelm your adrenal glands just so you can stay awake to function because you got to check 15 things a second. It's like, oh my God, I got
Yes.
up. Do I have my dog tags, my ID, my weapon, blah blah blah, my nods? Is all this shit on me? I just left 5 feet. Did my NCO think it's out of my reach? Oh my God, he's up my ass. So then he was like yelling at him while the dude's like super sick, and I'm like, God, you're being such a cocksucker. And that's what, as soon as I
Mm-hmm.
made E6, I would just start calling these fucking pieces of shit out. I was just like, dude,
Yeah.
fuck off. I would just walk up to them and be like, yo, you're really cool. Like I would just belittle them while they're trying to like talk shit to their soldiers because I was like, I know what a kind of piece of shit you are. I'm stronger than you. I'm smarter than you. I know more than you. I do your job and I'm a medic. I was like, fuck off. It's like you're nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyways, so he was doing that.
Yeah.
I
and
was trying to tell
and
him to
yeah.
like calm down, and then no, I shit you not. Later that day, this motherfucker's doing PT because he's part. There was like a lieutenant. We're gonna call him Lieutenant Familton. There we go. Um, and like they all come in and they're doing the little racist CrossFit group. Actually, I don't think he was racist. I think he was just like he was just a white. He was just an awkward white dude.
It's just a
He was just
silent
no. He was actually kind of cool from what I remember. But he was like
mhm.
it's like he knew he was
But
fucked.
it's complicit though, right?
I don't even know if he knew enough to be complicit, honestly. The lieutenants and
Okay.
the enlisted were so separated, he may actually be innocent in all this. But
Hmm.
yeah, but he just they had this CrossFit squad. I tried it like twice, and I was like, yeah, that's just fucking stupid. And I was like, I wanna not do that and get strong without hurting myself. Which I mean, I
It
failed
was
at.
like
But
my
if I would have done CrossFit, I'd be
Korea in
worse.
Korea, our fight club.
I'd
All
be
right, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. And so they come in because like when you have like in there, as long as we had one weapon on us, we could keep the other locked up. And so he came in with his like his little pistol holder and stuff, and he fucking motherfucker, like, I was done working out and I found a weapon in the gym. I'm like, oh, someone fucked up and left their weapon. So I was gonna try to be a good guy, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take this, and someone's gonna be walking around because the gym was right next to the aid station. I was like, they're probably gonna like fucking like ask, like, because they, whoever it was, they saw me, and it was that motherfucker. He fucking came in and he's like, man, have you seen a pistol? And I'm like, I just handed it to him, and he looked at me, and I looked at him. I was like, you hypocrite fuck. No words needed to be
Mhm.
said. I was just like, you know, you're a hypocrite fuck.
Right.
And it was just like, I think I noticed a little change in him after that. I was like, you son of a bitch. It's like, everyone's just a. Mm. Moral of the story,
Yeah, no, people, yeah, moral story, go ahead.
people suck. And don't
That's
join
the
the
moral
army.
story.
Try to avoid platoons called red. If you see 98% of the population is white, don't go on missions with them if you can help it. But
I think for me, the moral of the story is that like people in positions of authority do not always have integrity, right? And so we
no.
can't. The army has taught us that people have ranks and they have like a hierarchy, but it doesn't function the way that it's supposed to,
It's
right?
like
So like once you get a rank, you're supposed to behave in a more upstanding way that has more integrity and honor. But instead, what you get are people who have an unrefined set of ethics and morals and are like throwing their weight around on other people when they're hypocrites themselves. They do not hold the standards that they purport to hold,
yeah.
right? So for me, that was like a major eye opener. I remember just a less serious thing, like was like my time in Korea when we were just doing land navigation, and remember, like I think you were actually there at the time. We were all doing land navigation together
Yeah.
as like the whole brigade, and then like so my squad, we had this new NCO who I think he just got his E6, but he was like a senior. You know what I mean? Like he was like older than like our platoon sergeant. So what does that tell you? You know what I mean? So but he brought GPS into the land navigation exercise, and that is strictly prohibited, right? Like it would get you like what, like a field grade, I think. Would you say? I don't remember exactly, but I
What's the
think
offense
it's
again?
something. He brought a GPS device into land navigation exercise.
Depends on how big the asshole of the person in charge is. If they fart and you hear nothing, yeah, field grade. If
Hmm.
they have some decency to them, maybe a company grade or just corrective training. Old school,
Right. Well,
yeah, old school stuff, they just smoke the shit out of you and you're fine. That I actually kind of missed that. Like kind of like how things were settled in
but
Korea.
okay. So, but he's
But
E6, right?
oh, an
So
E6 did it?
the yeah,
Yeah, he may get demoted.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, it was a
integrity's
huge offense.
yeah.
Yeah. Um. So what happened was that I'm in a squad, but we're separating by teams, right?
Mhm.
And I was very glad I wasn't on his team. So I was
Yeah.
like as tempting as it is, I do not want to have anything to do with GPS.
Yeah.
So later on, after we were all everything said and done, I
Oh
was like,
fuck.
okay, so like I was just talking shit because I was like, okay, so we got finished around the same time you did, and you have a GPS. What happened?
Yeah.
And he
So
was like, shh, quiet, man. Like you're dropping dimes over here, man. Like
so
he's like joking around about it, and I was just
yeah.
like, no, like I was at the point where I didn't respect this guy,
Yeah.
and I was just like, what you did was just not right, dude. You're like an E6 now, and you're like our squad leader,
Mhm.
and you want me to like keep this quiet. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, you
And so
complicit
I
in
was
his
like,
bullshittery. So Jam has suffered
mhm,
through this thing that I can do where I know where I am but I don't know where I am. So like I made sure I was always good at land nav because I knew I would fail EFMB every single
Hmm.
time because of like performance anxiety and stuff. So I just made sure I got
Yeah.
good at like two things. I beat the Cadre and taking apart the M9, and then I got
Hmm.
really good at land nav. But I
Dude, we're the
also
same. We're the same. Yeah, I
yeah
also was like
yeah
9 mil expert and
yeah I fucking loved
same.
it. And I was just like trekking around. I was like I knew exactly how to the land nav was great. Like the one of the night courses I actually dead reckoned and
Yeah.
fucking tripped. I was like, okay, I should be here soon. And I tripped over a branch and fell out of the bushes, and my head, with my Kevlar, hit the fucking pole of the point in the dark.
Yeah.
Like I fucking fell through a bush and just my head hit it. And you heard the ring, and the cadre was 5 feet in the open. He turned around. He's like, "God damn, you're good." And I just laid there and smoked a cigarette. Like when I found it was awesome. Oh, it was
Yeah,
fucking
and
cool.
same like yeah, like I won like so I guess I have bragging rights, man.
Yeah,
I
brag.
did that land nav. I did that stuff that whole exercise
Hmm.
with so me and my Katusa buddy, who's a Korean soldier for you folks. We figured it out. We figured it out ourselves. Like we had other people on our team and but we were the two of us together done and done. Like we got back before most other people. And then excuse me, like by the time we were doing land nav in the National Guard, um I like my squad was always the first to finish. And it was me. Like I was the one doing it, you know. And like I remember the time when it was during this challenge, we'll just call it Indian challenge. It was named after some Indian tribe, starts with a C. But basically we like it was at nighttime and they were like, okay, so we're gonna put these chem lights. We call them chem lights, right? Or what's the chemical? Let's call them chem lights.
Yeah, chem lights.
Okay, so they were like, okay, we're gonna put these chem lights out. That's gonna be where your coordinates are. And like I was like, the beacons are lit. I was like, I was like, dude, this is gonna be so easy. Like my platoon sergeant was just like, dude, shut up. I was like just talking shit the whole time. I
Wait,
was like,
so on the night land nav, there were chem lights on the
yeah,
points?
there are chem lights on the fucking coordinates.
That's cool.
I was just like, dude, I'm gonna see that shit from like a mile away. You know why?
Yeah,
Because I have like serious. That's another thing. I have a serious acuity at night,
yeah,
probably because of my astigmatism. But
yeah.
um, excuse my snorting. I'm having trouble. But anyway,
It's all
yeah.
good.
But I could see like very clearly, and I think it was actually from doing all those night missions without using nods.
Hmm.
Because some a hole yeah, that's so I got my first months in Iraq, some hazing went on, and like somebody flared my nods, you know, and so like my nods were pretty much unusable for a lot of the missions from the
Yeah.
first couple months.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I um and I got in trouble for it, and I was just like, how is this my fault? It's this dude flashlight in my nods. Like what I had nothing to do with it. I mean,
Yeah.
um, but anyway, yeah. So I got hazed for that, and yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I don't have a lot of respect for yeah,
People,
the authority
community.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's like people are great, man. Like if you, I don't know, like the moral aspect of all this, like in terms of people, human beings or whatever, I from my perspective, I could see how people wind up the way they do and why they want, why they go the wrong path and do these cruel things to other people. So for me, it's like I can see why these things happen. It's not right. It's not cool, but it's at least we could probably correct it. Um, if we do the right things, if we
Mm.
apply the right skills, the right mindset, right approach. But but yeah, in terms of like at any given moment for all of society, people can be really shitty at times, and it's an unfortunate reality, I guess. Um, yeah. So anyway, um, yeah. What do you think, Grits?
So, Zach, he was cool.
Uh-huh.
Um, gosh, is it
So,
already? What time is it already? Sorry, audience. I'm disabled. Let me see.
all right. Well, so we talked a lot about actually like our subjective experiences in the army without getting into so much detail.
I just name dropped the three
Um,
most racist motherfuckers from 2011. So we're gonna,
yeah,
if I get,
yeah.
if we get famous,
I
shit's gonna fly, man. I hope not.
I want to say that the army, I did learn a lot of positive things from the army. You know, like the definitely it cured me of any sort of racism that I had prior.
Yeah.
Because I learned to respect the people of color in my units. So not just not just African Americans, but also like Hispanic folks as well,
Yeah.
Latinos, um, and various other groups. Because like white Americans, it's really weird. We have no excuse to be so culturally unaware, but like for some reason, white people in America, in my opinion, I think white people in America are often create these bubbles around them, and they have no idea that that's what they are doing.
Mhm.
And there are like the so-called black communities and Latin communities or whatever, but um, everyone should, you know, in my opinion, I think we should all try to collaborate and like reach out to each other. And uh,
Absolutely.
the army, the army kind of does that, right? Like it forces everybody into this sort of. There
That's
is no.
that's one good
We're all
thing I
one
miss.
culture.
I
Yeah,
miss it.
that's the
I
one
miss
good thing
that, the
about it.
camaraderie
Yeah,
and yeah, like the family. Cause
yeah.
I had a big culture shock moment because I had a lot of black friends before the army, and then in the
Hmm.
army, I was never. That's why those people in Iraq fucked me up so much. I was like, shit, man, I thought this didn't exist here. And
Yeah.
then when I got out, even outside, because I mean there was that ghetto I lived in, Colleen, and but it wasn't the
Uh-huh.
same. Like I was kind of like in like like a larger black community there that was like could be considered ghetto, but it was different because it was right outside of a military base. And
Right.
when I moved from there back to Florida to like these low income apartments while I started school, I was hit. I would like go up to a bunch of like people and just talk to them like, and I was hit with like the reaction. I was like, why the fuck you talk to me, you white bald dude? I was just like, oh shit, like the my downstairs neighbor, he was a little off put at first. He's like, oh, that explains a bit. You were in the army for a while. I got you. I had some friends in there, and I think okay, just be careful. He was like trying to. It's like
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
little careful, dog. I'm like,
Some
oh, I
folks
got
are
you.
hood
Okay,
out here, man.
yeah, something like yeah, but something like that. It's like fair
Yeah, yeah.
warning. Okay, I'm like, oh yeah, I got you.
Some
Okay, yeah.
yeah, some people are real hood out here, dog.
I
Like
just
watch out.
I forgot I was
Yeah.
white. That's how long I was in the army because I was just like I was like I forgot.
Yeah, the army does kind of like it sort of does become a crucible for everyone that
Yeah.
we start to rely on each other regardless of our background, and that's what I would like to do for everyone. Like the
Mhm.
society needs that to happen.
Yeah.
um Historically the army has always been like the kind of crucible, including like the Revolutionary War and Civil War and World War One and Two. In each iteration of war they always put people of color as like another component of the military, and then it wasn't until like World War Two or even the Korean War or whatever that you started to see people of color like get into the mix of the whole military, and and that says a lot about America's sort of racial history,
Mhm.
right? And basically, nobody from my perspective, nobody in America's government has any right to dictate to anybody else like how things ought to be. since they're part of the whole institution that couldn't integrate people like its own citizens into its whole apparatus. So yeah, we need a vox populi, which means like the voice of the people to dictate what's going on, and not even dictate, just sort of
Yeah,
you know
dictate's a strong word. We gotta avoid that for another 100 years. It's like-
yeah, not dictate. What I mean is
words like Adolf
call
and
the
Dick.
shots, basically.
Let's just avoid those. Half stashes, tall boots. Let's not. Let's avoid some of
Yeah,
those.
yeah. Speaking of dictators, yeah,
Tanks that are
yeah.
named after sausages. Let's just not.
When did okay? So here's the thing.
Mhm.
So I'm not in America right now, so I don't know really. Like
Yeah.
I've been living in Japan for a while. I don't really know how like what the milieu is about these things, but like how are people talking about like Putin and Xi Jinping, the so-called president of China? Don't they call them? Do they call them dictators or no?
I haven't heard
Like
too
in
much about China.
mainstream
Like a
media,
lot of
right?
a lot of stuff's on Putin and how awesome the Ukrainian president is.
Okay.
Like
Yeah, I mean, like,
they're
objectively, Zelensky is definitely good person.
yeah
Like, I'll put it that way.
yeah.
Um,
But it's a lot
yeah,
of
he's
here. It's basically like there's a lot of attention being drawn to capitalism just being horseshit. Like people are
good.
unanimous. It's like
Yeah.
hopefully bringing everyone together, except for some of the trumpets. The trumpets are real. They got their heads really down in the sand. Their dissonance is over 9,000. That is a Dragon Ball
It's over
reference.
9,000.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a
Well,
lot of
yeah, that's
like.
something we have to deal with because, like,
Mhm.
Trumpers really believe that they're going against the establishment, but it's just really ironic because like everything that they believe and do is
eh,
pro
I mean,
establishment.
to
It's
me,
like
everybody's just arguing over who has the best pile of shit. It's like my shit's gold. No, my shit's
yeah,
gold.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
it's all
I'm
shit.
king shit, but this pile it's just shit, man. Like it's nonsense.
My throne is made from
Um,
cow dung and not human feces, so it smells better.
but it's like always like so I'm clearly I don't know if it's clear or not, but I am a leftist, okay, which means that those left and right distinctions aren't so important. But when it comes
Dude,
to like
it's so
like
divided here. There was a guy in a MAGA shirt that snared at me for writing with my left hand. He was just like, sorry.
really, is
Yeah,
that true?
no, that
You
was a
said
joke.
like you're
I just
writing
want to
with your
see if
left
you
hand?
believe
Oh, okay.
it.
Okay, got it.
Sorry.
Damn it, you got me there, dude. I was like, what?
Every now and then I just try to bullshit and see. It's fun to see
Yeah.
how convincing I can make it.
Okay. Well, all right. So, but okay, just to be clear, like I am my whole like um I want to say worldview, my social outlook is left of is left. If you think of the political compass, which has four quadrants, it's on the bottom left of that, right? On the
Mhm.
one of the furthest parts of that quadrant. So what it means is like I'm a libertarian left person. So it means that I like people to have social freedoms, including like things like the gender, like you know, I don't think anyone has any right to have any judgment about someone's love life, period. Like
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with you. Two
Nope.
consenting adults, two or more consenting adults, if there's like a bunch of consenting adults doing whatever,
Mhm.
that's their prerogative. It has nothing to do with anybody who doesn't approve of that. If you don't approve of that, that's your problem. So that's what left libertarian means. Like,
Yeah.
so like, but when it comes to something like the economy, um, we need to. It's basically utilitarianism in a sense, where it's the greatest good for the greatest number of people, right? It's like greater good is the whole purpose, right? Like so everybody has a right to life and to their own safety and this sort of thing.
Mhm.
um And once somebody starts saying stuff like Patriot Act and like doing like smoking pot, you go to jail for that. Like when people start talking like that, then I'm just like, fuck right off. Like, like you have no right to. But so they can say like you can go to jail for that, but when it comes to like social safety nets,
Mhm.
like then that's all off limits. So we can't like so we can organize entire government apparatuses to put people in prison and then fund that. You know what I mean? Like that stuff's not free. You have to like for every person that's in prison, you have to pay for their meals and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And like so that there's like an annual budget for incarceration, but there's no annual budget for social safety nets, right? Like of course, you have like, Obamacare, but is that efficient? You have like you have food stamps, but is that efficient? Are these things like the thing basically left libertarianism definitely argues against all these sorts of apparatuses where you have like pro violence and coercion, where it's like you have prisons and you have police and you have like militarization in civilian populations, and you have like guns and all this stuff, but you don't have like like a like public school lunches for kids. Like
Yeah.
you put people in debt for that, and like the children, and then you cut them off from having a school lunch. That's insane. That's like dystopian, dude.
Yeah.
Is that
It's awful.
and that's been happening, and I'm like, I don't understand what the hell is that. So
It's awful.
libertarian left just means like people have a right to their own social, expressions and how they choose to dress and behave, um, as long as it doesn't harm other people. And at the same time, any sort of um, social like system or apparatus needs to be to the benefit of people. Like promoting rehabilitation over detention and things like that. But how about you, Grits? What would you say about all this? Would you agree with all this, or do you have any sort of disagreement,
Hmm. I
or maybe you
concur.
just disagree with calling it something like left or right?
I don't. I don't know. I think it's a little bit different here now. Like things are starting to become less defined. There's
Less defined?
yeah, like from political aspects, people are getting more like well, this is what I'm seeing in Florida at
Uh-huh.
least so far. This is my experiences. One little bald man goes out of his house a little bit at a time. Some days he can afford Publix. Most of the days it's Walmart. But I everyone is kind of just like pushing like, yeah, this capitalism shit is crap, and it's starting like when both sides are just like, yeah, this sucks. Like, why are we doing this? Because it's only like that 1%, and
Yeah,
like it's starting to
yeah, and
bring
that
people
that's
together a little bit. There's a
and
common ground.
and that's like the crux of memento mori in general, is that
Yeah.
um like what this conversation is about, like re-examining the problems and the sort of preconceptions of the fact that like we have these like mega corporations running the country, and like
Yep.
and people like nothing that is happening economically or socially is to the benefit of people, right? And like that's what like a society is supposed to be, is
Yeah.
supposed to facilitate at the very like core of what it is, the essence of it all. It's supposed to facilitate the well-being of everyone. And just like I'll just throw a term out. It's so Aristotle is a Greek philosopher. He had a term for this. It's just basically it just means well-being, right?
Mhm.
Or like the good for all. And right? I'm drawing a blank on what it's actually called. Eudaimonia is what it's called. Yeah, eudaimonia. And I'll put like a caption on the video for it. But it means like, so this was like when I was studying political philosophy in my undergrad. This was like one of the main themes in like the theories of justice and things like that. Why do we have a government? Why do we have society? Why do we have this and this and this? And like Aristotle basically like illustrated that it starts with the family unit, right? And basically like a polis, which is like what the Greeks called a city state. A polis is like an extension of like a family, a tribe, and then all the tribes come together as like one big family. That's a polis, right? And that's like what a government is, or what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And from the democratic perspective and a libertarian perspective, like the title libertarian, maybe people should look that up because it's not, doesn't mean what a lot of people think it means. Doesn't mean like the Gadsden yellow flag with the snake, don't tread on me crap. It's something totally different, right? But anyway, eudaimonia comes up as like the whole, like the crux of all of it.
Yeah.
Why we do what we do, why people have social commentary, why is there government, why are there social safety nets, like why do we even bother if we can just stick as a family unit and just have and be self-reliant in that way? Why do we need like why would a self-reliant family need a government? You know what I mean? But like unfortunately the world is vast, and there's a lot of like, there are a lot of dangers, there are a lot of like issues, and it comes to, yeah, so anyway, like it comes to a head with eudaimonia, which is that well-being is the whole purpose of why we have governments, why we have any sort of social constructs.
Mhm.
And when well-being is undermined, when eudaimonia is being challenged by our behavior and actions and everything else, then yeah, I would say um yeah, I would say that the system is failing, right? And that's like what capitalism has been doing to everyone. At one point it was a benefit, like it was beneficial, I think. But once we started to like peer behind the curtains and seeing like all of the like damage that was being done overseas, and then how it started to affect people within the country, and then yeah, then eudaimonia, which we could probably think of eudaimonia as like a thermometer or something, or like a gauge that's like at full, and now it's like running on empty. We're running on fumes in America, where eudaimonia, the greater good for the greatest amount of people, is like running on empty. I think that a lot of people are suffering, especially people of our generation, especially veterans
Yeah.
who haven't actually landed into a career path. Um, yeah, so I think that memento mori, that is what memento mori is drawing attention to this problem, to the fact that things aren't going well, and that we need to, that like people in positions of power need to be reminded of their own mortality and the limitations of their authority, and why they should not be legitimized leaders. But anyway,
That, ladies and
do you have
gentlemen,
anything to add? Yeah, as or
concludes our first episode. Just no.
yeah, yeah, I think that's a good
Yeah.
place where we can conclude and wrap it up. So thanks for everything, man.
Oh crap! Yeah, I'm the one
I
that's got to stop
I'm
it. I'm just stopping
sorry.
this. I'm not. I'm not ending with you. But yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Take care, everyone. The 5 members.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And I hope you do listen in.
There'll be more.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
hear my voice a whole lot. Really interrupting logical, continuous streams of.
Yeah, please
thought.
check out the rest of my channel. I make music. I try. And yeah. you'll